ultimate fishing authority in the Northeast, the Fisherman magazine.
No guessing, just catching. New Explore Series fish finders keep you locked on fish with unbeatable clarity, best-in-class imaging options, and a stunning ultra-bright HD screen. There's more to explore, only with Humminbird.
It's Thursday, August 14th, 2025, with your weekly video fishing forecast for the New Jersey, Delaware Bay region. I'm Jim Hutchinson, managing editor of the New Jersey edition of the Fisherman. And our marine weather, inshore and offshore, looks good as we head into this third weekend of August. Fluke, sea bass, and cobia in our reports this week. Tog and sheepshead out back, of course, as you'll see in the August edition of the Fisherman magazine. A mahi on the cover, but Jersey Shore tog, one fish bag limit, opened as of August 1st, so you have that in play as well. Overall, everything looks good at this point in the summer. The bad part, of course, is the big news that we heard this past Friday on the bluefin front. NOAA Fisheries announced that the angling category for bluefin tuna was officially closed as of this past Tuesday, August 12th at 11:30 p.m. I had a young man ask me, so if I brought a bluefin home at 11:45, would they bust me? I was like, I don't really know. But the reason for this closure, and it is terrible, obviously, but we have reached our recreational quota for the season, capping one of the shortest recreational bluefin fisheries in recent memory, in a long time. Now, in the July edition of the Fisherman magazine, you may have that on your shelf someplace, as I do. I had an editor's log that was called Bluefin Existentialism. Actually, I'm going to talk about that on this Saturday's Rack and Fin radio program with Tom P. But when that NOAA Fisheries adjustment earlier this season, obviously, if you remember going back the beginning of the season, they capped us off at less than 73 inches. And then they raised the size limit to under 73 inches, went from 47 inches to 73 inches, allowing a little bit more for the anglers and a couple of fish for the for-hire community. In that editorial I referenced, the earlier season, that max of 47 inches was devastating. So we kind of knew that going to 73 inches or less would probably threaten, or it may threaten, the rest of our bluefin season. The July increase was a boon to a growing fishery along the Atlantic coast, but again, it was short-lived. And again, as I mentioned in that editorial quote, these cutbacks aren't because the stock is in trouble. The problem is there are too many bluefin and not enough quota. See, the issue here isn't entirely with NOAA Fisheries, except to say, in my opinion, that our U.S. State Department hasn't always prioritized tuna quota at the international level. The International Commission for the Conservation of Atlantic Tunas, ICCAT, they refer to that as ICAT, that's like the United Nations for tuna conservation, and management. Global entities negotiating over this highly migratory species. Now, when these nations get together to carve up the tuna pie, there's a lot of give and take. And some of the nations prioritize their tuna fishery, where others historically have shown up mostly to concede stake in the fishery in order to lead by example. So the U.S. receives 49% of the Western Atlantic bluefin quota, yet we only receive 3% of the entire Atlantic Basin quota. That counts the Eastern Atlantic and the Western Atlantic. We only receive 3%. Yet you have these countries like Japan, for example. They don't even have a coastline along the Atlantic, along with other countries like Algeria and Libya, Morocco, Tunisia, and Turkey, all getting assigned quota that, for the most part, on the Eastern Atlantic side, is nearly twice what the United States gets here on the Western Atlantic. So let's use Tunisia for an example. They walk away from the ICAT bargaining table with 3,000 metric tons of bluefin tuna, which is almost double. It's more than double what the U.S. takes. I don't know, maybe the Republic of Tunisia buys some more of those Avenger air defense systems from Boeing. Maybe you get a little something in the ICAT gift bag on the way out for doing something like that. But America's commercial bluefin fishermen had a total, the United States of America, we had a total base quota of just over 1,000 metric tons. Last year, recreationals received less than 300 metric tons. So the more we report, the better our argument will be when our diplomats go back to ICAT to try to negotiate more take. But again, to argue for more share of the quota in the future means more reporting now, more anglers, that leads to a closure. That's where it's a dual-edged sword. But the commercial fishery itself is still open because their slice of the bluefin pie has not been used up yet. By the way, that 1,300 or so metric tons shared by comms and recs overall, 20,000 or so fish, not nearly enough to meet the growing demand in this fishery. More anglers are gearing up. More anglers are participating. There's brand new rods, reels, and Sterling wide trackers. Everybody's getting into it. So our recreational quota gets used up quicker. It's a dog chasing its tail, similar to what I referenced about black sea bass in the August edition. More on that in a few minutes. Now, if I'm not mistaken, across the Atlantic, those countries are getting 40,000 metric tons of Eastern Atlantic quota. We're here in the Americas, North, Central, and South America. Our bluefin share on the Western Atlantic is 2,700 metric tons. A key sticking point is this stat. The U.S. recreational harvest, Eastern and Western, is 0.71% of the entire Atlantic Basin bluefin harvest. That is the problem. So what can be done right now to salvage, let's say, a sliver of the fall fishery? Maybe a thorough and transparent analysis of the Large Pelagic Survey, or LPS, that's used to monitor our recreational catch. Perhaps someone at NOAA inadvertently moved a decimal point. Who knows? But if the agency perhaps could move some more of that famous reserve tuna quota that they have around for us later in the season, maybe. But again, that long-range answer to the bluefin mess is having international representatives and delegates, recreational, commercial, from the United States of America go into these ICAT meetings with new marching orders, get more tuna quota, and no more apologies. We shall see. So we hope and pray for a sliver, but the silver lining, if there is one, is our yellowfin fishery, which is hot and heavy if you find the signs of life. Let's go to the videotape. I was aboard Captain Alan Lee's Mushin earlier this week. Johnny Cavalier got the poppin' party started in grand fashion. Yellowfin on top around schools of skipjack and mackerel, porpoises, finbacks, minke whales all over the place, even jigged some up underneath an enormous submerged tree which seemed to have its entire root system intact below the surface. I hope nobody ran into that. Our team of 9 this week shared the bounty with over a dozen yellowfin and a mess of tilefish at the Hudson. The yellowfin were short of the canyon, I would add. Finding life was key, a good reason to have Sirius XM Weather's fish mapping software, or perhaps the Canyon Runner satellite service. Certainly a bit of intel helps you when you're out there 30, 40, 50 miles from shore. A few chunky tuna in the box, and the fishing was so good that even blind squirrels could find a nut or two. Though truth be told, while I did well with the tilefish, I was low man on the tuna totem pole yet again. In his offshore report at thefisherman.com, appearing in our weekly digital edition posted on Monday, Tom P. suggests the Bacardi and the Triple Wreck region for yellowfin in the northern half of the Garden State. South Jersey anglers are heading a little bit deeper, hitting those southern canyons like the Baltimore. Now, if you plan on heading east this weekend, here's what we're looking at. From the Hudson to the Baltimore, in terms of the NOAA marine weather forecast, things are looking good. Middle of the week, when we look at this weekend ahead, it looks good. Mostly light winds, 3 to 4s at the canyon grounds through Sunday. That said, we all need to keep an eye out on Tropical Storm Erin in the next week. That's expected to be the first Atlantic hurricane of the 2025 season. It looks treacherous. And from what I saw, again, middle of the week, there is a chance, 40% chance, that it is going to hit the Atlantic coast. Now, with that said, I will say that mahi are showing up in better numbers on the mid-range grounds, the lumps, the fish pots, those submerged trees that you might find encouraging, by last week's easterly winds. Maybe that pushed things a little bit closer to the beach. Some areas, of course, are now also producing some bonita. Think some of those lumps. Sea Isle lump maybe might be worth it. The ridges off of Sea Isle. And also the Barnegat Ridge, what's left of the Manasquan Ridge perhaps. Try anchoring up and tossing peanuts, get a slick going, and either drift chunks back or toss some metals or epoxies. You can also get some of those bonita, tasty bonita on the troll as well, using some smaller Yazuris. Before the Bluefin closure last week, Jenny sneaked out in search of tuna and pulled up short to take advantage of those nearshore speedsters. Remember, bonita and bonito are different species. Down in the South Atlantic, the Floridians call false albacore bonita with a feminine A, while our northern green funny fish, bonito, are quite tasty when bled and iced right away. Here's more from Jenny.
Hey guys, want to see what I'm hooked up in on this week's open boat? Well, you're going to have to stay tuned till Sunday at 6 p.m. to see what I catch. And it's not just what I catch, but how I catch it. We're showcasing what I use reel-wise and lure-wise, and maybe, if we get some keepers, what I'm using to fillet fish with. So stay tuned Sunday at 6 p.m. for this week's open boat. It is action-packed for you guys. I'll catch you guys then.
28th Shoretown Ballpark, Jersey, BoatExpo.com.
Life is better with a boat.
Back along our inshore forecast for this weekend ahead, it looks like out of Atlantic City, things are good up and down the coast. Friday winds out of the northeast at 10 knots, seas 2 to 3 feet. Saturday easterly winds 5 to 10, seas around 2 feet. Sunday winds forecast to come up light out of the southwest before turning southerly in the afternoon. Again, light seas. According to NOAA Weather and their midweek marine forecast, inshore and offshore conditions for this weekend, this third weekend of August, look pretty tasty. Fluking. It's sound, and sound-wise, you can still score. Maybe it's the easterly winds pushing some of the cleaner, cooler ocean waters in to the inlets. But my neighbor, Steph, was out on Tuesday morning, 6 pounds, 25 inches, 25 and a half inches on the upper stretches of Barnegat Bay. So again, perhaps some cooler water coming in from the ocean. And of course, we have a lot of bait now, the young of the year, starting to accumulate. They're in the lagoons and the canals and some of those back coves. So a lot of times those fluke will come back in looking for those baits that are easy to get before they head to deeper waters. Farther south into Barnegat, Rich Barber and grandson Huddy found a 7.29 pound fluke in the bay, willing to take a whack at a half-ounce bucktail and a 4-inch white gulp grub. That beautiful fish was weighed in at Creekside Outfitters. Now, I missed this one last week. Kim Robinson was aboard Never Enough out of Avalon, captained by Mike Smith, working over the inshore rubble with 1.5 ounce jigs tipped with gulp, and they had 12 fish at the boat. The pool winner for this crew of Mason Williams, Ryan Robinson, Mike Bryan, and Robert Meissner, and Kim, of course, was Mike, 6 pounds, 6 ounces. I mentioned 1.5 ounce jigs because if we do have light winds and nice sea conditions, you can get away with lighter jig heads, lighter bucktails when working over some of that ocean structure. But the best of the fluke action at this point, certainly out front. So you've got charter boats and head boats available if you don't want to take your skiff or your center console. I'm a 20-foot bay angler kind of guy. I don't leave the back bay. If I do, I'm going to jump on with one of the head boats so I can work over the sticky stuff. Out of Shark River, I know the Big Mohawk has been doing very well. Bring those big ball jigs and the teaser rigs, plenty of big gulp baits or fish bites, those big 6-inch grubs to get those fluke up from the structure. I heard from Tyler Casero this week, who found drop and reel action on the Big Mohawk. This week, thinks he had 150 shorts alone, but ended up with 10 or so keepers with he and his buddies. But Tyler told me full boat limits across rail to rail, stern to bow along the Big Mohawk. Also out of Shark River, I heard from Captain Steve Spinelli aboard the Skylarker, which is a larger multi-passenger charter vessel if you have a big family or a work trip that you want to plan. But he told me on Tuesday that John Dubbs of Howell Had a really nice pair of fluke. This third fish apparently was already in the cooler, but those two, that brace looks fantastic. If you have some big fluke photos to share, make sure you get them over to Jenny Ackerman for her ongoing Super Fluker Challenge. That's Jackerman at thefisherman.com. And also don't forget about our Dreamboat Fishing Challenge. You want to go get that big fluke weighed in and photographed at a participating Dreamboat weigh station, one of the tackle shops listed in the Fisherman magazine. There are only a few New Jersey edition fluke on that board right now. I think there's actually just two. And a 7.08 pound fluke will get you on there right now. And black sea bass, we've got that one bag limit allowance right now in the summer months. So if you get a big humpback and you're a Fisherman subscriber, bring it to the tackle shop, weigh it in, fill out the data, and you could be on the Dreamboat leaderboard at the end of the season. And that'll be good for a nice prize. Of course, you're working towards that Steiger Center console. Cobia have been around this summer, and more folks are working the mid-range grounds, are hoping to score. Mike McGuigan said he and his dad were looking for bluefin before the shutdown, hitting a couple of inshore pots and logs with a small epoxy jig, Hoagie epoxy jig out of Manasquan. The smallest rod on the boat got bit. Sharky rods, medium rated, 1/2 to 1.5 ounces with 3,000 Stratic 20-pound fluoro. They must have been looking for mahi or speedsters, but they ended up doing a 40-minute battle on this 61-inch, 62.5-pound Jersey jumbo cobia. Now, a lot of folks have been talking about bait, whether the bait's there or not. The tuna we hit earlier this week, by the way, absolutely loaded with sand eels. I'm hearing good reports of baby peanut bunker in the Back Bay waters right now, which is a good sign, as I said, for that secondary shot of fluke in the backwaters, also for a solid fall bite in along the Jersey shore once that season gets started. If the bay waters cool up a little bit, I'm looking to throw some Missouri inshore poppers, those little ones, along the sod banks looking for striped bass, because I have heard here and there of some striper and bluefish explosions on some of that baits that are accumulating. Again, right spot, right time. Now the Omega Protein cooked seafood bunker reduction boats, they're only allowed to work in federal waters, right? They can't be inside 3 miles. They're only outside 3 miles. And anybody inside 3 miles in state waters is going to be a smaller bunker boat that's catching baits. Either way, bycatch is always going to be a problem in that fishery, which is why recreational commercial fishermen really can't ever get along. For one, allocation. They get 1,000 metric tons of bluefin. We get 300. So yeah, we're a little bit chapped about that. Second thing that we don't always see eye to eye on is gear allocation or gear selection. And some commercial gear is really not what I'd call selective. Case in point, Nick Curcio sent this video just outside of Barnegat Inlet this past Sunday. He was looking for some bunker and he saw the birds working. He saw a ton of birds working behind a commercial boat, which was only tending to its gear for a few minutes before it moved along. The birds stuck around, so Nick was like, oh, must be something in the mix here. Here's what was in the mix. Quote, "What I saw was a field of dead croaker littering the surface of the water. It appears the boat started hauling the net, realized it wasn't bunker, left all the fish to die. I understand there is a bycatch with commercial fishing, but with all the recent regulation changes restricting the recreational fishermen, this really got my blood boiling on what was otherwise a beautiful day." Always seeing something like that will get your blood boiling, and I don't know what we can actually do about it. On a more positive note, 18 miles south of that, there was another reef deployment recently by the New Jersey Division of Fish and Wildlife. A 200-foot barge, number 199, was sunk at the Little Egg Reef. That reef is really starting to explode with structure, all thanks to the Beach Haven Charter Fishing Association and their Junior Mates program, and of course, the Sport Fishing Fund. You can go to the sportfishingfund.org to find out more information. But these Beach Haven Charter Fishing folks have said, you know what, we're going to raise donations, we're going to get some sport fishing funds donated, and we're going to rebuild that Little Egg Reef complex. Well done. There are still reef deployments going on in the state of New Jersey but a lot of it is going to require a little bit more private funding from groups. Now that barge, by the way, is eventually going to become home to more than 150 organisms, including black sea bass, tog, summer flounder, lobsters, crabs, and mussels. Numbers? You want numbers? You can go find that wreck right now. The numbers are on the screen in that image of the reef deployment. It's not going to do anything for you right now. Give it till next summer, and that's going to be a place that you're going to want to hang your rig. Not hang your hat, you're going to want to hang your rig. I choked myself up. Listen, we're going to look at the calendar of events. We're going to check in on the Mid-Atlantic Fishery Management Council, which met this week, find out the status of 2026 fluke and black sea bass. We've got a report from the Fisherman magazine in Alaska this week, and I bumped into someone at a bait and tackle shop who wants to be the next governor of the Great Garden State. That's in about 2 minutes. But first, we're going to head to the Keystone State and our freshwater update with the Pocono Outdoors guy at Dunkelberger's.
Well, hey, thanks, Jim. I guess we couldn't ask for a more perfect stretch of weather to get some fishing in over the past, week, 10 days, almost 2 weeks. It's been really good, and lots of guys have been getting out on fishing. To my surprise, there's been so many people checking in on that striper fishing. Even through this hot weather, the bite has been really good. In fact, young Wyatt Tucker was up on Wallenpaupack. His dad, Key, the very proud papa, sent in some pictures of young Wyatt out on some striper out of the Wallenpaupack. Some great fishing up there. That bite remains really strong. All those lakes, Beltsville, Raystown, all producing well with those stripers, so you can get out on a bite on that. We also had the Delaware River, some great bite going on there for those stripers. We had Eric Fissler check in. Well, he was out with Chuck Manny. He's been everywhere lately, Chuck. I think he's fishes with everybody in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Anyway, they were on the Delaware River getting some great striper as well. Eric getting a nice one here during the day. Chuck got a nice one at night as well. So around the clock, you're getting some great striper. Chuck also managed to get into a beautiful, beautiful muskie as well, and I'm a little jealous because Jim and I have been trying to get that off our to-do list and haven't quite got it yet. So Jim, we have to get back out. Also out on the Susquehanna, we had good friend Nick Canestra. He checked in. He was out there fishing topwater baits for those smallmouth and being real successful. Got into a bunch of them. Again, guys, this is the perfect weather. We're getting into those shorter days, cooler nights. Those more aggressive baits like jerk baits and any kind of topwater are really going to be producing for you now. So great work there. You can get on them yourselves out in the Susquehanna. Now, guys, I wanted to pass along a note. We have the 2025 Catfish Kings tournament coming up. Laurie Yates checked in out on the Delaware River. The tournament is held at Riverside Bar and Grill. It'll be from 8 p.m. August 23rd to 8 a.m. on the 24th. You guys can get into that tournament as well. Entry fee is $30. You can check in with Laurie Yates. Best way to contact her is to go onto her Facebook page. I'll post it up here. Also, you can email her, and I'll put her email address at the bottom of the screen right here. So if you guys want to get into some of that great flathead catfishing, get a hold of Laura and see if you can enter this tournament as well. Should be a great time with, again, lots of cash prizes for that. Guys, lots of great fishing going around. I hope you get a chance to get out and get on them. But from Pennsylvania, I'm George, your Pocono Outdoors guy.
For more than 20 years, anglers everywhere have come to know one thing, that nothing says no to fish bites.
From the Pocono Mountains to the Fairweather Range at Elfin Cove, Alaska, the Fisherman magazine's publisher, Mike Caruso, has a report from a rainy Tanaku Lodge, the land of the doormats.
Hey, it's been an awesome week here so far. We've had all kinds of native Alaskan species, king salmon, coho salmon, halibut, black cod, lingcod, black rockfish. You name it, we've run into it here. A little soggy, but that's Alaska for you. But we've had a really great time here. These waters and this weather conditions They definitely require a little strategy as things change, because that's one thing you can expect here is changing weather. We've had sunshine. Right now it's pouring rain, but we're getting ready to go deep into Glacier Bay to look for some giant halibut. So hopefully I can show you some of those. But right now, just check out this scenery here from Elfin Cove here in Alaska.
The famed waters of Panama awaits a fishing experience like no other. Tropic Star Lodge welcomes anglers to get in on world-famous fishing action. Plan your perfect trip today. Tropic Star Lodge, the ultimate in fishing adventures for more than 60 years.
August edition from the calendar of events. On page 9, the second half of the calendar of events, because we're on the second half, the waning edge of summer of 2025. Time is flying. I want to thank the Rutgers Cooperative Extension folks, first of all, in Toms River, and the guys at the folks at the IGFA for inviting me out into the Reel Into Fishing event in Toms River this week, and I'll be out in Burlington County next week as per the calendar of events. But this weekend ahead, you've got the Ozarks Fluke Tournament. That's this weekend. The captain's meeting is on Friday in Jackson Township. Also, the big event for offshore anglers, the Mid-Atlantic. It kicks off on Sunday with the captain's meeting in Cape May and at Sunset Marina in Ocean City, Maryland. A big, big event for big pockets and big paydays. You can get all the details at southjerseytournaments.com. Now, if you need a big sport fisherman so you can fish that big tournament that next week, you can check out the new boat preview event in Barnegat Light this week at Bayview Harbor Marina, going from Thursday through Saturday. It's presented by South Jersey Yacht Sales. Also, good luck to those competing in this week's Flounder Pounder Open in Delaware. Over 375 teams, more than 2,200 anglers chasing a $100,000 pot and all kinds of daily Calcutta money in the world's largest flounder tournament. Pounding flounder. That brings us to the news of the week as we start stuffing some fish sausages. The Mid-Atlantic Fishery Management Council meeting in Annapolis, Maryland. If you want to find out about the council, who they are, what they do, you can find that at mafmc.org. But on the docket for discussion, 2026 specifications for bluefish, porgies, fluke, and sea bass. Today, we're going to cover fluke and sea bass. It all kicked off with summer flounder. As it stands today, the commercial quota is 8.79 million pounds, while our present recreational harvest limit, or RHL, is 6.35 million pounds. Now, the council voted on Wednesday 10-1, with Virginia somehow sole opposition, I'm not sure why, to increase both the commercial and recreational take of summer flounder in 2026. The commercial goes up to 14.52 million pounds, while our recreational harvest limit will go up to 8.79 million pounds. Yes, this is good news. It means the fluke stock is healthy enough to handle a bump in the annual catch. There is a catch, though. It's a big but here. We have to wait to see what those measures look like under our new harvest control rule, which happens to be a double-edged sword. You see, it helps level off any wild cutbacks. So when they tell us the quotas have to be reduced massively, the recreational harvest limit has to go down, this harvest control rule and the percent change approach allows us to level it off in the middle. But at the same time, it keeps us from maximizing any potential increases. So when they tell us, oh, you can do this, well, no, we've got the percent change approach that's going to go into the middle. Peaks and valleys, highs and lows. Again, we're going to have to wait a little while to see if we're going to get an increase in our limits for 2026, which may be adjusting the season size and bag in a better proportionate value for anglers next season. Porgy was also discussed. The fisheries managers were late heading into lunch, and my screen grab here says draft motion, but I do believe this is what we're looking at in 2026, a subtle increase in recreational harvest limits in the scup fishery from approximately 12.3 million pounds this season to 13.17 million pounds in 2026. However, it goes back down to 11.58 million pounds in 2027. Again, those are the peaks and valleys that I'm telling you about. So with that control rule, that harvest control rule, and the percent change approach, a new way of managing recreational fishing, we're going to have to see how this breaks out in terms of season size and bag. Up and down, up and down. Everything is up and down. Black sea bass, Wednesday afternoon. This is where I feel like we had the best possible news. Let me start with a chart here for reference sake. On the screen right now, you'll see in the inset image with the green box, that's taken from my August editor's log called False Promises. It shows how robust the spawning stock biomass really is for black sea bass. And then the main chart explains a little bit of maybe, let's call it a management disconnect. Do you see those red squiggly lines there on the assessment? That essentially shows where the scientists working on black sea bass management kind of felt that the black sea bass stock was going to collapse a little bit. They kept forecasting, oh, it's going to dip, and then it didn't dip. And every time you see those little red bars, oh, it's going to dip. Well, it never dipped, and we blew right through those dips, and now we're at the highest point in management history. The technocrats had forecasted this declining biomass, and they were never right. So hopefully those folks aren't involved in the stock market, because they would have lost millions. So instead, we're looking at a healthy and robust fishery, a biomass that's 2.84 times the target level. That is good. That's twice as good. That's double good. Lots of sacrifice. And now many anglers, especially here in New Jersey, feel it's time for rewards. So the council and commission voted this week to honor and recognize the facts that black sea bass abundance is pretty high. A unanimous vote to increase the quota and the catch limits for black sea bass starting in 2026. Currently, our recreational harvest limit stands at 6.27 million pounds. Well, the vote on Wednesday will increase that recreational catch, the recreational harvest limit, to 8.14 million pounds. Again, how this all shakes out in terms of season, size, and bag in 2026 remains to be seen. And while I may feel a little bit less optimistic about any real significant increase in fluke or porgy, I do think that this decision is going to give us a few additional days of fishing for black sea bass next season, maybe even another fish or two during the summer months. But again, anything positive at this point, it's a really good thing, especially since we started off with such bad news on Bluefin. Now, I'd remind you, these Mid-Atlantic Fishery Management Council members who make these decisions, as well as the commissioners at the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission and at the New Jersey Marine Fisheries Council and at the State Fish and Game Council, all these people that make these decisions are appointees selected by the governor. So the governor of New Jersey plays a big part in the stuffing of our fish sausages. That being said, this coming November 4th, New Jersey voters will be headed to the polls to select a new governor. I know when I look at my electric bill that I think that rising electricity prices are probably going to be the biggest issue for voters this November. But I digress on that. The truth is, there are other concerns for a governor. He's going to select, he or she is going to select a new head of the Department of Environmental Protection, for example. He or she's going to make all of those fisheries nominations. They'll also play a part. That'll also play a part, I'm sure, because you're a hardcore angler. It's going to play a part in how you decide when you go behind that curtain in November. Now, I want you to know, from a bipartisan basis, I've reached out to both candidates, Democrat Mikey Sherrill and Republican Jack Chattarelli, to get their thoughts on recreational fishing. Stay tuned over the coming months as I'll give you updates as I get them from the candidates for those who want to know what these potential governors really want to do about recreational fishing. But I do want to be able to present both sides, the thoughts and opinions from both sides of the political aisle as it relates to recreational fishing under a new governor starting in 2026. So anyway, in the process of reaching out to both candidates, last week I learned that one of those candidates, Republican Jack Chattarelli, was planning to visit Grumpy's Tackle in Seaside this past Saturday morning. So I figured I'll swing by. Need a couple of things anyway. Mr. Chattarelli spent some time talking to Scott Thomas from Grumpy's Tackle Scott, if you know, he's part owner of Yakety Yak Kayaks right next door. And if you know Scott, you know that he's got opinions on a lot of things. And he shared them with Jack Chattarelli. And I listened as Scott stressed the ongoing problems at Island Beach State Park with mobile beach permits turned into party permits. I'll leave you this week with a snippet of what the gubernatorial candidate had to say during this most recent listening tour at the Jersey Shore.
So this is one reason why I'm in the community each and every day, because I always say my first job as a candidate and as governor is to listen. You can't possibly be an expert in all things. You can't possibly know what's going on in the four corners of New Jersey on a daily basis. This is the first I've heard of this, but it sounds very disturbing to me. Island Beach is a treasure, and we want to preserve it in its very natural kind of way and its natural beauty. So if that kind of thing is happening, which by the way is dangerous to the dunes and turning a very tranquil setting into something that shouldn't be, I want to hear about it and I want to know what we can do about it. But I promise you, my DEP will be very, very sympathetic to our fishermen and our hunters all across the state of New Jersey.